do, but we doubt the timing and we doubt the way that he wants to do it. And so we try to ensure the promise. We want to make sure that that baby comes. We want to make sure that job title comes, that career comes, that family, the house, or whatever it is comes, that we tend to try to do it our own way. And again, like Isaac was always coming. Isaac wasn't like, oh, a second thought. Like Isaac was always the plan. And the Lord didn't need their input. He didn't need their logic or their calculating or their like scheming. He needed their faith. This is the In Your Favor podcast, where I share lessons I've learned on my walk with Christ to help you navigate yours. Listen, we may not always get it right and we won't always have the answers, but trust it's working in your favor. Hey y'all, and welcome back to the In Your Favor podcast. I'm your host, Amanda, and we are on episode 6, y'all. I do not know how we got here. I feel like I just started this thing like yesterday, but we are on episode 6, and I'm so glad you're here. I'm so excited you've joined me for yet another week to dive into some stories, lessons, things have learned on my walk with Christ. Hopefully it will inspire you on your walk and your journey as well. Today, I had recorded this episode actually maybe like a month ago. It was going to be the second episode because it was like happening like real time for me. And I was like, let me sit on it. Let me wait a little bit and come back to it. And so I'm excited to dive into it today and kind of talk through it, since it is something that had been sitting heavy in my heart. It's challenged me in seasons before, but to be walking it out real time in a different way, I feel like that is how it goes sometimes. It's like things come up that challenge you even to grow deeper and to trust the Lord even more. And so, this episode is about God insurance, y'all. And it is hopefully going to challenge you in the ways that it has also challenged me. But I know we are all familiar with insurance. We get insurance for our cars. We have health insurance. We get renter's insurance. Even some of us have Apple Care, on our phones. So it's definitely something that we are not like ignorant to knowing about. We know insurance and why we have insurance. But what happens when you start to treat God the same way and you want to have an insurance plan just in case he doesn't show up the way that you think he should or the way that you want? And so we always want that, like, we want the security and the safety of the just in case. And it's, a backup plan, peace of mind, ways for us to just feel like, okay, we have a little bit of control, and we don't. We don't. And honestly, most of the times we're just in the way. So I definitely felt strongly when I was sitting with this, because I realized that this has happened multiple times in my life. Like I said, it's something that has come up before, but you don't need insurance for what the Lord has promised you. For what God has said, you do not need a backup plan for. You do not need to get your hands in it to try to help God. You don't need any of that. You truly need to trust and have faith that what he has said and what he has spoken will come to pass at the right time. And I think that's often the challenge, is like, the right time, we get a little impatient. And so the first thing that came up for me when I was thinking through this was actually the story of Abram, Sarai, and Hagar, and Ishmael in the Bible. So I'm going to kind of touch on that a little bit and how it touched me. But if you want to read deeper, it starts in Genesis 15 and kind of goes through Genesis 21. So you can open up your Bibles and kind of read and dive into that. But just to kind of like summarize, in Genesis 15, right, we see where the Lord made a promise to Abram. And in Genesis 15:4, it says, the Lord said to him, no, your servant will not be your heir, for you will have a son of your own who will be your heir. And so the Lord made a promise to Abram and goes on to say, like, your descendants will be as great as the numbers of stars in the sky. And that was the promise. Like, he went into covenant with Abram and said, I will bring this thing through you, right? And in verse 6, it says, and Abram believed the Lord, and the Lord counted him as righteous because of his faith. And so when I was reading through the story of Hagar and Sarah and how Ishmael like came about and stuff, I was like, isn't it so funny how just the chapter before, right, in 15, Abram believed the Lord. He was so sure because of his faith, the Lord counted him as righteous. And so it's like, what changed between 15 and 16, right? Because we get to 16 and it goes right into it. And it starts off and it said, now Sarai, Abram's wife, had not been able to bear children for him, but she had an Egyptian servant named Hagar. So Sarah said to Abram, the Lord has prevented me from having children. Go sleep with my servant. Perhaps I can have children through her. And Abram agreed with Sarai's proposal. And it also goes on to say that this was 10 years after Abram had settled in the land of Canaan. So they had been waiting, right? And so it creeps in when that waiting, that period of like, I'm waiting, Lord, I'm waiting, Lord, I'm waiting, Lord. And it's like, when is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? Sarai took it into her own hands and convinced her husband to go along with this plan for Hagar to bring them an heir, a descendant through Hagar. And that wasn't the promise. That wasn't what the Lord said. The Lord already had Isaac waiting, but they wanted to kind of take things into their own hands and do it their own way. We see later on in verse 4 where it says that once Hagar got pregnant, she began to treat her mistress with contempt. And then Sarah said to Abram, this is all your fault. I put my servant in your arms. And so she began to blame her husband for a plan that was her own, right? Which is often like us. We put ourselves in situations and then we are responsible for our own suffering, but we want to point the finger at everybody else. We want to point the finger at somebody else because it can't be us, right? And through the story, it goes on to say he didn't go back on what he had said. And even though Abram was 100 and Sarah was 90 years old when Isaac was born, the Lord fulfilled his promise. The Lord did not go back on his word. He did not change his mind. The Lord did not go back at all on what he had said, which was, I'm going to give you a son. And in verse 21, it starts, the Lord kept his word and did for Sarah exactly what he had promised. And I just think that is so beautiful because it is hard for us to get to 21, right? It's hard for us to get to the point where we see the Lord fulfill his promise because we don't wait very well, one. And two, we are so used to being able to have insurance plans and backup plans and options that we often feel like it's okay for us to kind of have our hands in the mix and have our backup plan just in case it doesn't look like what the Lord said, or just in case the Lord needs help getting to where he said, right? Maybe it's not that we doubt that he's going to do what he said he's going to do, but we doubt the timing and we doubt the way that he wants to do it. And so we try to ensure the promise. We want to make sure that that baby comes. We want to make sure that job title comes, that career comes, that family, the house, or whatever it is comes, that we tend to try to do it our own way. And again, like Isaac was always coming. Isaac wasn't like, a second thought. Like Isaac was always the plan. And the Lord didn't need their input. He didn't need their logic or their calculating or their like scheming. He needed their faith. I had to sit and ask myself, like, are you trusting God's promise or are you trying to ensure it just in case it doesn't work out? And, there is a Hagar in all of our lives. There is an Ishmael in all of our lives, right? Like the thing that we feel like can get us closer to the thing that the Lord has said, even if it's not the way or how the Lord wants to do it. And so it's like, what's the thing that you've tried to control because you're tired of waiting or you feel like it's taking too long or you're running out of faith to trust God? Like, what is that thing? Like, just because it feels like it's impossible or it feels like it's too far off, like you don't know, it could be right around the corner, but because you want to put your hands on it and you want to do it your way, you're ultimately delaying the thing that God has waiting for you anyway. And so again, I've been there many times trying to force things to work out my way. But recently this came up for me because I was having a conversation with a friend and I was just sharing how I've had a few friends or a few people in my life who have shared that they are, thinking about freezing their eggs or looking at freezing their eggs or have done it, right? And I'm like, I'm at that age where it really is a reality of like, okay, well, if I wait too much longer, then you can't freeze your eggs or it's harder to freeze your eggs. But if I go ahead and do it. It's expensive. There's a whole process. It's hard on your body. Like there's all of these things. And I don't want to get to a place where it's not an option, but I also don't know if I'm ready to do it now. And they were sharing with me, they were like, you're older than you think you are. And I was like, no, I just think I need to be prepared. And like, I'm just trying to think ahead and like really just have insurance on like, I really want to be a mother and I really want to experience motherhood. And like, I mean, my biological clock is ticking and like, I'm running out of time. And I was having like these very anxious, fearful thoughts around, is this possible for me? And they shared with me, they were like, my God is bigger than that. And I was like, oh, thank you for checking me, because it is so easy and it happens so quickly that something that feels so normal in conversation and it is very real. But I think like my fear was speaking and my fear was showing more than my faith was showing. And so even though I'm not saying if you are a woman who is thinking about, freezing your eggs or fertility options, like I'm not saying don't do them by any means. I'm speaking from my experience of like, it was rooted in the fear of let me ensure this thing because I'm afraid it won't happen. Not this is something that the Lord is leading me to do. It was more of like, I need to ensure that whether I have kids next month or I have kids in 10 years, the option is there, right? And I think that taking that very real experience, we look in the Bible at so many examples and we're like, why would they do that? Or how could they do that? But it happens in our lives too. Like the very real day-to-day things that pop up for us is like, are you leading with faith or are you leading from fear? Are you leading from a place of anxiety? Are you leading from a place of like uncertainty, or are you walking in the faith of what the Lord has promised you? And so I really had to challenge myself. And even though it can feel like you're being proactive and you're just making sure all of your ducks are in a row and you're doing all of these things, and I'm like, honestly, it wasn't that. It was really fear, and to be honest, that's hard to sit with and to be like, wow, like I really was willing and considering this thing because I'm afraid of being disappointed by God, not because this is the thing that God is saying to do. And we try to frame it as faith sometimes of like, oh, I'm just preparing or I'm just getting ready. And in reality, it's just anxiety. You're just afraid and you're just scared. And you feel like without you having this backup plan, without you having your hands in the mix, that God can't do the thing that he said he could do. And he doesn't need our hands on it. He doesn't need our input. And a lot of times we feel like he does. And that's putting him in a box and limiting his power and his might. And he doesn't need our help, honestly. But just moving in obedience and trying to be intentional about honoring what the Lord has said without trying to manipulate an outcome was the biggest takeaway that I had in that scenario. And I was so grateful for a friend to call me out and to check me and to be like, hey, this isn't it. And like I said before, like it's a very real thing, right? Like I've had a journey that feels like I've had a lot of setbacks and like not being married, not having kids yet, and seeing people around you go through these things and like being on a healing journey and just waiting on God's timing for a lot of things. It can feel like at my age, I'm behind. And I have to remind myself and be like, says who? Like, you're not behind, and that anxiety of being behind will lead you to trying to acquire things that the Lord has not said you're ready to have. And this was just another example of that. And, the fear of, hey, like, I shouldn't even say the fear, but like the very real possibility, right? That maybe it won't happen for you. Maybe it's not in the cards, but it's like, I believe that it is. And I have faith that it is. But even if it's not, and even if God has other plans and children are not in the cards for me, like God is still good. But I trust him and I believe him. And if motherhood is a part of my story, I believe that it will happen whether I'm 50 or whether I'm 35, right? Like I truly believe that what he has for me is for me. And I think about, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in Daniel 3, they said, our God is able to deliver us, but even if he does not, we will not bow, right? And that is the posture that we have to take, because it is so easy. It is so easy to say, okay, even if it doesn't happen, I'm going to do it this way. Or even if it doesn't happen, I'm going to try this thing. But to say, even if he doesn't deliver, we will not bow. And to stand 10 toes down on what God has is like, you gotta be about it, okay? And even if it's something that you want, even if it's something that you feel so strongly that you should or could have, you have to be so locked in that it's like, but even if you don't, God, I still love you and I trust you and you are good and you are gracious and you are kind and you are mighty and you are magnificent. Like, even if you don't get the promise, but also God is not a man that he shall lie. So if he has said it, it will happen. It will happen. And so I just want the kind of faith that's not built on outcomes, right? Like, it's not built on, okay, God, if you give me this, then I'll give you praise. Or God, if you do this for me, then I'll give you that. Like, I want a faith that is so built on the knowing and the faith and the trust that God is who he says he is. And he is a good father and he is not withholding good things from me. And he loves me and he cares for me. And that relationship is so strong that even in the sadness, even in the uncertainty, that I can say, no, he's doing something. He's up to something and he's still good, even if it doesn't look like what I thought it should look like. Faith is not knowing the how all the time. And I know, like, as someone who likes to be in control sometimes, like, the how is important to a lot of us, but the who your faith is built on is far more important than the how. Like, when you know God is who he says he is, the how doesn't matter as much. Not saying that you won't be disappointed or you won't be sad or you won't have feelings about a thing, but you can stand on the promises of God and who God says he is. And so whether it's your career or you are trying to move up the corporate ladder or you're trying to step out on faith and follow through, the Lord gave you a word for a business and you're like, I'm trying to do this business, Lord, but it's not looking right. Like, let me go back to the 9 to 5. Let me go back. Like, whatever it is, right? Like, if he said what he said, then he said what he said. Like, he said what he said. And sometimes that's all we have to do is, like, go back and say, what did he say? What did God say to me? What did he reveal to me? And really stand on that and ask yourself, can you stand the outcome even if it looks different? Are you okay even if it looks different? And I know a lot of us want to say, yep, I am. I'm okay. But are you really? Are you really? Is he enough? Because honestly, I struggled to say yes. And I struggled to say, not that he isn't enough, but am I okay with the outcome if I'm not a mom? Yes, I am okay. Would it be hard? Absolutely. Absolutely. Because that's a desire that I have. And so it's not that you all of a sudden won't feel the thing anymore. It's just going to go away. Maybe over time, like, the Lord will give us the desires of our heart. So maybe it will change, but that's not to say that you won't be sad in the process. That's not to say that it won't be hard, but you can get there, right? I think the biggest thing is not losing faith and trust in the Lord of who he says he is and just standing on what he said. And in the waiting, don't give in to the pressure to feel like you need to ensure or backdoor some sort of, like, manufactured plan to get the thing that you feel like you're supposed to have. Like, no, that's not it either. That's not it either. So I just want to encourage you, take your hands off of it, surrender it to him. Even if it's hard, even if you feel like you're struggling, you don't need a backup plan. Like, you don't need insurance for what God has promised you. Just like Abram and Sarai, they didn't need Hagar and they didn't need to manufacture Ishmael to get the thing that God had already promised. If they had have waited, they would have had Isaac anyway. Focus on the thing that he has you doing. And in the waiting, give it to him. He is secure. He is good. He is firm foundation. You can stand on it. You can take it to the bank. You can trust God that he is not a man that he shall lie, and his timing is perfect. even though it may not feel perfect to us, even though his plan may feel hard to us, he is perfect in all his ways. And if you don't take anything else from this episode, let it just be a reminder that delayed is not denied. It's not denied. It's still going to happen. It still can happen. And even when you don't see it, like Sarah didn't see that, oh, like I'm old. How could I have a child at this age? Even though she couldn't see it, God already saw it. God already had it in the works. And even though you may can't see it right now, just know that the Lord is still working it out for you. He still has a plan for you. He has good things waiting for you. And the absence of seeing it happen right now does not mean that it won't happen or it can't happen. And so just having faith and trust in God and not allowing the discomfort to sway you, I just encourage you. You don't need to put your hands in the mix to try to create things that God isn't ready to give you. And when you trust him and when you have your faith in him, you can stand on the fact that he is not going to fail you. He has never failed you. He will never fail you. And that alone should give you some sort of security and confidence to say, okay, like I'm good. If it's only for today, like I'm good for today, and take it to him again tomorrow and say, Lord, I'm giving this to you today. And each day, his daily bread will sustain you and carry you and keep you through the waiting, through the journey. But I promise you, we do not need insurance for God's plans for our lives. So I love y'all so much. I hope that that encourages you. I hope that you are able to just take inventory of your own lives and see maybe where you have tried to manufacture some things in your life. Maybe God is revealing something to you through this journey that you may be walking in this season of waiting that you may be in. But yeah, if this episode spoke to you, if it encourages you, if it helped you in any way, share it with someone, tell a friend to tell a friend. Like, share, subscribe so you never miss an episode. And y'all, don't forget, we may not always get it right and we won't always have the answers, but trust it is working in your favor. I love you.